Hello, I'm going to show you an exercise from the day on DAX programming in the Beyond the Basics course from JB International. And I'm going to try and give you the whole world of DAX programming in one exercise. Many people find DAX rather sort of difficult. Certainly, I didn't find it terribly straightforward to begin with, despite having been programming for decades. Wasn't quite what I expected it to be, but it's incredibly powerful without really writing very much code. And the key to begin to understand DAX is this idea of evaluation context. And I'm just going to show you filter context. Okay, so let's get into this. So the data we've got here is a single table data model. It's got categorical fields like customer segment and country, and it's got lots of numbers here that get added up. And we've got the year over there. There's the year. The data actually starts in September 2013. So we only have the last 4 months of 2013. But we've got all 12 months for 2014. And let's sort of visualize this. Let's imagine we want to see how the profit breaks down for different years and different categories. Okay, so we'll just stick a matrix on there. And let's have the year in columns, perhaps country on rows. And let's just look at the profit figure. So this profit number there looks like a column. So a lot of people look at that and they just think that's a column. It's okay. I mean, it does look like a column, but the fact it's got a sigma sign in front of it tells you that that's a measure. It's an implied measure. A measure is profoundly different to a column. It's a summary. Okay, and profit by default, just like all the others, all the other numeric fields that get pulled in, default to being implicit measures. They get summed, which you can change, of course. So let's just put profit in there and see what that looks like. We have these different numbers. We've happened to have broken it down by, country on this occasion. And okay, but you might think, well, okay, that's all very good. But be nice to see if that could be broken down as a percentage of the total. So how would you do that? You need to have the grand total available. So you look at this, you think, well, okay, the grand total is actually there. This matrix has somehow calculated the grand total, but that's not available to you. It's not available to the calculation engine for the purposes of measure calculation. So we're going to have to reproduce that. And so how do you do that? Well, the key to this is understanding filter context. So let's have just a little quick look at that first before we get into any DAX programming, which you've probably already understood sort of intuitively, and we need to understand it on a slightly deeper level, just to know what you're looking at when you're looking at these numbers here. So, and I mentioned filter context. So we have France here. Let's just take one figure, France in 2013. It's showing us sort of, 811,000. That is all the data points in this intersection of 2013 with France. Who knows how many data points that is? We've got 700 rows in the table, whatever it is, about 50 rows or something like that, are being used. The profit for those rows is being summed to produce this figure. So just to make sure you understand that, let's go to over here to the source data in Excel and choose France and the year as 2013. And then look at the profit number here. You can just select the column and it very helpfully tells you what that sums up to in Excel, tells you sort of handy information, including the sum. 811332. And that's indeed what we see here. Now, one of the things about Power BI, it's so fast, you don't realize how much it's doing. It put all these figures in here instantaneously, didn't it? As soon as I added the profit value in there, the profit measure, put that in there, it added these up. It calculated them instantaneously. Now, what with DAX programming, one of the very useful things it can do is it's actually able to ignore the filtering, the filter context it's in, or ignore the filters that are at the intersection of the filter context it's in. Let's put it like that. So, because what you need to be able to do is calculate the grand total wherever you are, right? You know, whatever intersection you're at. And so we do that using a special function in the DAX language called calculate. So let's show you how to do that. Okay, make a new measure. I'm going to call it profit grand total. And it equals calculate. And you can't just put profit in here. You can't calculate the profit as in just the name profit on its own. You have to specify, you have to reproduce what that implicit measure is doing. The implicit measure is not seen in the calculation engine. So we have to put in sum, we're reproducing it here, sum the profit. There it is. Calculate the sum of the profit, but if you look at the syntax, this helpful syntax notation that pops up here, evaluates an expression in a context modified by filters, right? So we're going to put in some sort of filter here, which essentially, I mean, it's the rows that, rather than just the rows, you know, in that filter context of France 2030, we essentially can say, give us all the rows. So we're going to do that by using a function called all, right? So let's put it in, and then I'm going to explain it. All. And we need to give it the table name, in this case, overall financials. Now, it's tempting to think, yeah, just give me all the rows in financials, but actually what that all is really doing is it's saying ignore all the filter columns. Ignore all the filter columns. So here it's staying true to the fact that it's in France and 2013. It's only receiving the data points for France and 2013. When we say all financials, saying calculate the profit, ignoring all your filters. That's the best way to think of it. That's how I've learned to think about that. It's served me well. So press enter to save that measure. There's profit grand total. Let's stick it in to see what that looks like. And that's all it is. You know, it's able to calculate this grand total wherever you are, whatever your intersection is. And this is useful because now that measure, profit grand total, can now be used as a denominator to divide this profit by, so we can get our percentage profit overall, the overall percentage profit. Okay, so that's kind of the easy part. Let's do that now. Create a new measure. Just going to call it percent profit. Equals our, right, we've still got to reproduce the sum of profit. There it is. I mean, you could actually make that into a measure of its own, on its own right, call it sort of total profit or something, and then use it as an interim measure here. But I'm going to do it longhand every time. Divided by, what do we call it? Profit grand total. There it is, profit grand total. And now we can put that in, percent profit, put that in on the values as well. And there you see we have it. Actually, it's a number that's less than 1, of course, every time. You probably want to display it as a percentage. So we select, make sure we've got percent profit displayed, selected in the fields list, and get it to display as a percentage. Perhaps just have no decimal places to keep it nice and simple. Actually, what I'm going to do is simplify the look of this by copying that visual. paste it down here and just get rid of everything except the percent profit. Okay, so we're seeing the profit broken down. You can see the profit contribution for the different countries in this case over the 2 different years. Now you might think, well, yeah, but that wasn't quite what I wanted. I wanted to see how the percentage. I want to see a percent of that year. It's all that's nice, but can you do it as a percentage of the year? The answer is yes. With us, almost the same thing, but not quite. We're going to use a different filter modifier. And this time, the filter modifier is going to be saying, ignore all the filters, but not the year. Don't ignore what year you're in. So only keep the rows for the purposes of adding up, only supply the rows to your measure for its calculation purposes from the year in question. But as far as all the other fields are concerned, just ignore them and give it all the rows. Don't bother about the fact whether it's in Canada or France, or indeed, what discount band if they happen to put that in, or whatever, right? So that is going to be rather similar to, so we can actually use this profit grand total and adapt it. So I'm going to just press Control C to copy that and make a new measure and copy that in. And let's call this profit grand total by year. And the difference here is, rather than saying ignore everything, we actually want to say ignore all except. So we can use a DAX function called all except. Now, all except then needs 2 parameters. First thing it needs, let's just bring up the syntax notation. All except, it needs a table name, and you've got to tell it what column name that it shouldn't be ignoring. Column name or column names. You can have a list. Syntax notation with a comma, dot, dot, dot means that you can add more of these. Okay. And so let's do that. Financials. And it's the year that we want it not to ignore. Just put in year like that. And we can save that now. So I've got a kind of result down here, sort of something that's looking towards an end result. And this matrix is a sort of working matrix to sort of demonstrate what's going on. So I think you've seen the principle of the profit grand total working. So let's take that one out and put in profit grand total by year instead in the same place. And that's what it's doing. It's doing, so you can verify it against these totals here. It's exactly the same number. That's what you want. And so to get the profit grand total by year, that now becomes our denominator. So once again, I think we can adapt something, take percent profit, copy and paste that, and we're going to be dividing sum of profit by profit grand total by year. So let's make a new measure. Let's paste that in. This is percent profit by year. And then we're going to divide by profit grand total by year. There you go. Press tab to select that and save it there. And then let's again make things a bit quicker by copying that visual, paste it, and change percent profit to percent profit by year. Once again, we have to make it look like a percentage. Now so it's only, you see, they all add up. Both years add up to 100%. Of course, the countries don't, but the years do, and this is the whole point. And so we can see that France went up a bit, Germany went down quite a lot, Mexico went up, and the USA went up. So one last thing to show you here is, we've finished the DAX lesson now, but it's really to demonstrate the power that that's given you here in this system, that by ignoring all the filters except the year, it means just with that bit of work you've just done, you can analyze by other fields, not just the country, see? So, and a quick way to do that, rather than keep taking things in and out, is you can put a number of different categorical fields into the, let's do it with the rows. Choose this matrix and put in the other categorical fields. So as well as country, I'm going to have discount band, I'm going to have product and segment. And I'm just going to do a go-to in a moment. For those of you that know go-to, that's what this is going to be about. And it also works by drilling down like this. A bit more. All these numbers are correct. And we can drill down as much as you want. Everything is fine. But you might think, oh dear, you know, it's getting a bit too detailed. Yeah, so we can do a go-to here. We're going from the country. We're coming down to, we see how it breaks down by discount band, by product, but almost effortless. In each case, it adds up to 100%. You can see how these things vary. And one last thing, you can see how that looks with a chart. So let's once again make use of what we got. I'll put that on a different page. And we'll turn this into a clustered column chart in which we want the year to be the legend. And so now you've got a mechanism. I think we've drilled all the way down to segment here. So let's drill back up to country. Basically, whatever we look at here now, if we don't sort of drill down into something, whatever we're looking at, we've got 2013 all adding up to 100%. 21, 21, 29. We might get a bit of rounding errors, but basically that adds up to 100%, and so does the dark blue add up to 100%. So that's essentially what we're looking at here. We're looking at these figures here in graph form. And again, you could just do a go-to, effortless, to see how this looks. Some people are a bit more visual, prefer to see it graphed like that. I mean, it's the whole point of having graphs, isn't it? And don't forget that you can also drill down. If you didn't know this, let's do a drill down now. You might look at this and think, okay, Germany is a bit of a big change. So we seem to lose a lot. But don't forget that this is a percentage of those 4 months in 2013. It was much higher for Germany as a percentage. The total amount in 2014 would have been rather more, almost certainly. So, but let's do a drill down into that. And when you hover over the filter, it shows you that we're in Germany. And this is how the figures changed for Germany. And again, you can drill down, you can do a go to the next level. We're still in Germany, you see. Drill down again to customer segments. Turns out that actually 25% of our profit in the year 2013 was the government customer segment in Germany. That concludes this lesson, which was really on DAX, to show you the world of DAX programming, what's kinds of things that it can do for you, and what it looks like to create measures. Hope you enjoyed it.